Oops, I didn't want to do that yet. All right, so we're going to look at, and I'm struggling. I'm still having problems with my eye, so my vision is so blurred. It takes me a while to get to this. Okay, so we're going to look at what the actual test was, and then we're going to look at how Jamie solved it, and then any of the rest of you that want to look at your test, we can, and then we'll go on to Unit 5. Okay, so this test. Test 2. Okay, so this one was to, remember you only had to flowchart or pseudocode and write the Python for a program that requested a student's name, their major field of study, and I gave you the variable names to use. If you didn't use those variable names, that was why I gave those for, I think I gave you points for if you use those. I got to look at my rubric again. You were supposed to request 2 GPAs and then average those 2. That was really the only calculation in the whole program. And that you would average the 2 semester grades, then display a message that tells the honors ranking of the student depending upon his average. So this one is going to use if, else's, elifs, or nested ifs. Some people may have used an and or an or if they wanted to, a Boolean expression, but it had to use a combination of what we've been using. You did not have to do a function in this program. So you were to, first of all, after you asked the input, then you were supposed to display all those input variables with labels. Then calculate the average of GPA 1 and GPA 2, and then output the message, President's Honor Roll and the student average, if the student's grade point average is greater than or equal to 3.9. Output the message, Dean's List, if the student's grade point average is greater than or equal to 3.5. Output the message, Academic Probation, if the grade point average is less than 2.0. Output the message, you are an average student, if the grade point average is between 2.0 and 3.4 inclusive. Output the message, you are an excellent student, if the student's grade point averages, GPA and GPA 2 are both equal to 4.0. It is possible for students to have the excellent student and the President's Honor Roll messages. So then you had 25 points for the pseudocoded flowchart. You had, and it says you must use the variable names I designated above and all correct symbols to get the full points. Use PyCharm or IDLE to create the Python, which was worth 22 points. Submit the test with the correct name, a file named T2, your initials, and a screenshot of the correct output in the assignments Test2 Dropbox. That's worth 3 points. So I gave you 4 example or test runs to be able to test if those all of those conditions worked in your program. So that's what the screenshot was about. And this one was the one if they were both 4.0. Then this one was if they had a 3.8 and a 4.0. This one was 3.2, 3.4, 3.5, 3.6. So hopefully all the conditions, I'm not sure if I did test all of them, but wait. Okay, so Jamie, did you do pseudocode or flowchart?
I did pseudocode, but my pseudocode, I didn't have time to like completely fix it the way I wanted it to be. So it was almost identical to my Python.
Okay, well, let's see. Let me get the view bigger here. I know I can do that on here, I'm pretty sure. Well, oh, there it is. Okay, so she did her declarations of all the input values using the names, variable names that I indicated, and then average the two GPAs, then display the honor ranking of the student. Okay, this was kind of like her comments of what the program is to do. Tell us the name of the student. So here she actually, all you would have to do in the pseudocode was put input with all of these. You didn't need in your pseudocode to go in and put all of this exactly. Yeah, that's what she's saying. She just copied her Python. So this is actually not pseudocode, but Python is real close to that. So let's see if the if statements are correct. If average is less than 2.0, output you are on academic probation. Else, if average is greater than or equal to 2.0 and average is less than or equal to 3.4, output you are an average student. Else, if average is greater than or equal to 3.5 and average is less than 3.9, output you're on the dean's list. Else, if average is greater than or equal to 3.9, output you are on the president's honor roll. If GPA 1 is the same as 4.0 and GPA 2 is the same as 4.0, output you're an excellent student. Okay, she chose to use the Boolean compound, or it's not actually Boolean, the compound if statements using ands throughout hers. So there's other ways to do it, but that one should work. Let's see what her output said. Let me see here. So when you ran, did you do all the tests?
I think I did all but the
Okay. Oh, where did that? Okay, there it is. Okay, when she ran James Jones programming, she got 3.8, 4.0, and her president's honor roll 3.9. So that was correct. And this one got average student because, oh, where's the average? Where'd you output the average? Oh, this one you forgot to put what the average was between 3.2 and 3. Okay, so then this one down here says you are on the dean's list, 3.55 was this average. So the only one she didn't do was with the president's honor roll. Okay, so that was one way to do it. Does anyone want me to look at theirs? Anyone else? Samuel and then Joseph. Okay, so let's go back here. Let's go back to the test. Oh, someone else came in. Let me see. That's probably Ryan. Is that you, Ryan? I bet it is. Okay. Think here a minute even how to get back. Okay. Okay, so, and then we'll do, let's see, Joseph wanted to do his. Well, it looks like maybe I did grade a couple of them. Is Jared in here? Jared? No. Okay, he must be in one of the other classes. Okay, let's see. Samuel. What's your last name, Samuel? In Nixon. Okay. Let's see here. Okay. Did you just do the Python? Is that all you do? Oh, yeah, here they are. Okay. Okay. Oh, is that it? Sure, little. Okay, let's see. Okay, so he did start, he did all his input, like with the variable names that I requested, calculated his average, and then his if statements. If average is greater than or equal to 3.9, message equals president's honor roll, else if average is greater than 3.5, message equals dean's list, else if average is less than 2.0, message equals academic probation. And then this is the one where else if, or elif, average is greater than or equal to 2.0 and average is less than or equal to 3.5. You could also have had a nested if under here if you didn't know how to use the ands. Else if, oh, and you didn't print the average. Oh, this is just the pseudocode. Okay, message, you are an excellent student. And are on the, because you could only have, he assumed you can only have a 4.0 if both of the averages were 4.0, right? Okay, so that was a simple version of pseudocode, which is what I requested. Where did this go? Okay, so now his Python, download it. Okay, and you did screenshots too, are they below?
I didn't actually do screenshots.
Okay. Does it run? Does your Python run?
I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
It ran while I was in here, and then I think they tried it out elsewhere.
And it didn't?
Run.
Oh.
I was like,
Okay, so let's see what happens. Oh, where are those? I want to use those same averages. I don't care about the names. Okay, first semester, let me get that sheet up again. Must have closed it out. No, there it is. Okay, so first values that, or if we did the 4.0, is that what that one was? No, let's see. That's all right. Okay, so if we make them both 4.0 and 4.0, President's Honor Roll. Okay, so yours only printed out President's Honor Roll.
because
If average is greater than or equal to 4.0, print. Yeah, oh, because, okay, it dropped out. You see in your if statements, it did this one, and since these are all elifs, then once it found a match here, it didn't test this one.
okay.
You see what happened? Everybody follow? So if you use elifs, then he needed to drop this one to just an if, and then that would have worked. Let's see if that'll work. I'm gonna put it in. Now, if I run it with those same values, um, 4.0. There we go. Oh, it did it twice. So you didn't need this because, okay, so if you drop it out like that, then you would take that statement out because it would have already done it up here. Does everybody understand? Okay. Any questions? All right, so we'll look at Joseph's and see his was it. You said look at yours, right? Just okay. So let's see. Joseph's was at the top, I thought. Okay, let's look at this first. Oh. Okay, so his does the same. His ifs are a little different. Instead of elifs, he has all his input. He has his average calculation. And then the first one he tests is if GPA 1 and GPA 2 are equal to 4.0, then print you are an excellent student. And here again, he didn't have to do all of that for the pseudocode, but I understand this is, up here you didn't do all that. So you're just saying, print you are an excellent student. If average is greater than or equal to 3.9, you're on the president's honor roll. Else, if he does this one at the top, then he should be okay because these are all elifs down here, right? So the problem Samuel had is he kept his in elifs. So here we can say if it's greater than or equal to 3.9, president's honor roll, else if 3.5, dean's list, else 2.0 is less than average, which is less than 3.4. So you must have wrote it different in Python. I'll look at it. Else, if average is less than 2.0, then you print academic probation and then output all of those values and stop. Okay, so let's look back at, oh, where did that go? Okay, there it is. So now your Python, and we'll try it with a couple of them. Let me download it. Okay, so the one we want to try first, how did you do did this work? If 2.0 less than average, which is less than 3.4, did it work that way? Oh, I didn't know Python would let you do that. So he didn't use an and, he just said if 2.0 is less than average and average is less than 3.4. So it doesn't even have an and in there. Okay. Let's do the 4.0. 4.0. Oops. Yeah, that's right. Uh-oh. Now, let's see. Line 4, GPA 2 equals float. Failure could not convert string to float. Why did it do it just on 2 and not on 1? Let me see. So I guess, did yours work? Oh, you have screenshots, so, right? Huh, wonder what that is that it's not liking. Okay, let me look at your screenshots. Something on my Mac here it doesn't like. This one's a screenshot. Actually, I'm going to download it so I can enlarge it. Okay, so on his screenshots here, first one is what I ran it with, 4.0. 4.0 was George CS 4.0, average. You are an excellent student and you are on President's Honor Roll. So his code did work. Let me see that one that I wasn't sure. Was there a test for that one? I don't even know if I gave you a test if it was between, yeah, that was average student. So there was a test on that one. I need to open that back up. Where'd it go? Maybe it's there. I don't know where it went. Fundamentals, students, 930. Just 2. And yours was JB. JB. No, that one isn't it. Thought I downloaded your screenshot. Oh, there it is, I think. Okay, is this one yours? No, because yours had the pie charm in it, didn't it? That's JS. I guess I didn't download it to that document. Because you have them all in one, right? No? Did you just do the one?
I think I just did the one screenshot.
Yeah, because I think I told y'all if that was the hard one. Okay, so I wanted to see if it ran for the average because I've never seen it done that way. Let's see, did it open? Oh, I bet it's because I was opening it in idle. Let me try it. See, it shouldn't matter, but sometimes it's crazy. Okay, let's go here. It was T2 JB, that's it, right? Let's see. Sometimes mine doesn't even show up. Pie charm. Have to go find it. I could have tried it on the PC, I guess. Pie charm, there it is. Open. That must be what it was, is something to do. Okay, so, oh, that's not the right, that's not yours. That's something else. File, open. Well, I can't find where yours is, so I'm gonna do it this way. Now that I have PyCharm open, maybe it will open with it. Still not showing it. I'm not sure why that's doing that. Maybe. I think it'll be here. It's too hard to find it. We'll come back to it. If yours, so yours is running on PyCharm. Oh, there. Maybe that's gonna let me open. I don't know why it gives it to me like that. Users, done what's in desktop documents. Maybe it's in here. I don't know. Let's see, fall 19. It's too hard to see. I can't do it. I can't find it today. Okay, so okay, so Joseph's, his is running from the screenshot, so I don't know why that idle did that. Let me see if I can see anything that looks crazy as far as idle goes. Float. I don't see anything in there. Would make it do that. Average 4.0. There it is. Ran that time. I don't know why the first time it did, but there it goes. Okay, so I want to try it with a value that's going to be average because that statement. Okay, so which one? What were the values for one that was average? Okay, let me go down here. Oh, and I guess I closed that out too. Okay, so the average test was, which one? On the precedents, I thought one of them said average. There it is. So 3.2 and 3.4 should give it the average. So 3.2 and 3.4, and it did. So that's a new way in Python, instead of using the and statement, that's a different way that you can do it. The way Joseph did right here is, I didn't know that Python would let you do that. So instead of having to make it a compound and, it's still a compound statement. It's just he used the constants there in the, and the variable in the middle. I've just never seen any other language let you do that. But you try things and then you know if it works. All right, so any other questions about the test? Anybody had? Okay. So let's go then to MindTap, and I'm gonna go a little bit over. Actually, this chapter, Unit 5, goes over loops, which we've been covering already, and we did a lot of work with functions last week on Wednesday, I think, because I was going to put them on the test, and then I decided to wait till next time when you do loops. Let's see. Where's this at? This helps me see better. Sorry. Oh, I think I poked it. Okay, so in MindTap, if you haven't gotten in there yet, I did give you where I opened it. So in Unit 5, it's on looping. So remember I told you that in the beginning we did like an overview of all the structures, and we've been talking about all semester about sequential, branching, or if then else, and repetition, you use loops. So this actual chapter goes a little bit deeper into loops. We've done an overview. We're going to see different kinds of loops and the way that you can control how many times your loop is going to go through. So some of the things that are really important in this chapter are these 3 steps of are the 3 different kinds of loops, and then nested loops. You know, we have nested ifs. We can also have nested loops. And some of the most common loop mistakes that cause a loop to loop indefinitely is when you don't increase your counter, if it's a counter controlled loop, which is what a for loop is, or if it's a while loop and you don't change the loop sentinel value. What's a sentinel value? We talked about that too already. What's a sentinel value? Remember? One that causes the loop to end. So you initialize it before you start in the loop, and then you do something in the body of the loop, and then at the bottom of the loop you have to change that or increment it or ask for the input again, and or else the loop will keep going. So how many of you have read this? Has anybody read Unit 5 yet? Anybody? Okay. So we can't really go into all of this without going through it. So we won't get to work in very many problems. So here's the advantages of loops. This is the loop structure that you've already seen earlier, where we saw on a flow chart the 3 structures. We saw sequential, we saw if else, and we saw loops, and you can stack any number of those to build a program. So here, the while statement pseudocode says while the condition is true, then do the statements in here, and then in the while. So this is kind of like the Head First book does, where it lays out the comments here tell you while condition. The while keyword starts the statement and precedes any statements that execute when the tested condition is true. The tested condition is a Boolean expression. It might be a comparison, such as X is greater than Y. It might be a Boolean variable if the language supports the type, or it might be a call to a method that returns a Boolean value. Remind everybody, somebody tell me what Boolean is. What's a Boolean variable?
Variable that only has two answers, either yes, no, true, false, or anything that has
Two values, right. It can only, it's like a switch. It's either on or off. And so you can't put just any value in it if it's a Boolean variable. You can even in Python say while true, do this, and that would work. You already have learned that many programs use a loop to control repetitive tasks. For example, figure 5-2 shows the basic structure of many business programs. And so we've seen this loop. We saw it, I think, in Unit 3, where what does this box mean? What does it mean when you see this box? That says housekeeping with parentheses after it. Function, good. So it's making a call to a function. And you notice there's not going to be a return value, or else it'd have a variable on this side of the call. And it's not passing any parameters. It's just saying, do your declarations, go do any housekeeping routine you have, go down and check to see if you're at the end of file. So this is a loop. It's not a branching statement. This is actually an if statement, but it's not. It works like an if statement, but it's actually the while statement that says while you're not, what does EOF stand for? End of file. While you're not at end of file, then you're going to do something here. This is another call to a function, right? And then you're going to go back up and you're going to test again. Am I at end of file? When I am, then I go to end of job routine. So this is what I was telling you is kind of like a template for all programs, because if you just want to do one record or one set of data, then it's kind of a useless program to just run it for one time. So if you always, whatever you're doing, like our test program, we could do it in this actual template here. And that's what we're going to do here in a minute. So here's, and you need to go back and watch this introduction to loops and answer those true and false. So here you can also use a loop control variable, which in a while loop, instead of using a Boolean value, you can use a loop control variable, which is the variable that is initialized before the loop. It's tested in the loop. And if it's true, then the loop body is entered. Then you have to alter the loop control variable within the body of the loop. So where in this template here is the body of the loop? What was that? Okay. Oh, that wasn't what I meant to do. Guess it was at the bottom there. In that, this. Okay. Where's the body of the loop? The while loop starts right here. So where's the body of it? The detail. So in the detail, it's saying in the detail, you have to alter that control variable. So you would initialize it probably in housekeeping. So down here, it didn't actually show us those functions. It's just showing us this is the template for using a loop. So here's what's important to look at for every loop is that do I have these three things in my loop? If I don't, it will not work properly. If I don't initialize it before I enter the loop, then there's no value in that variable. So it has nothing to test. Then at the top of the loop, I'm going to test it to see if it's true, whatever I want the condition to be for that control variable. Then the control variable is altered within the loop. So those three parts need to be done. And right here it tells you if you omit any of these actions, initialize, test, alter, or perform them incorrectly, you run the risk of creating an infinite loop. Once your logic enters the body of a structured loop, the entire loop body must execute. Program logic can leave a structured loop only at the evaluation of the loop control. So when you're inside detail loop, you can't get out of it until you get back to the test. Commonly, you can control a loop's repetitions in one of two ways. You can use a counter to create a definite counter-controlled loop, which with that control variable, it's going to start out with 0 or 1, whatever you want to start with. And however many times, if you want to go through that loop 10 times, then you would be executing the loop until that counter or control variable is greater than 10. So these are the two ways. Use a counter or use a sentinel value to create an indefinite loop. Use a sentinel value to create an indefinite. This one is counter controlled. So if you have a set of, or you have a user that you don't know how many students they're going to enter their GPAs for, then which one of those two kinds of loops would you want to use? The sentinel value or the counter controlled?
Probably.
If you don't know how many students. Sentinel, because you're going to test for a certain value, like when student name is none or something like that. Okay, counter controlled would be if you knew, if they told you make your program to process 10 students, then you know definitely that's a definite loop. Indefinite, now don't confuse that with infinite. Infinite's different. Indefinite just means that you don't know upon entering the program how many times it's going to loop. But then counter is definite. It's defined at the top how many times you're going to go through the loop. Okay? Okay, so here, oops, did it give us, where did that go? I thought it gave us a flow chart and then went away. Okay, so here's a definite loop, a counted while loop that outputs hello 4 times. Okay, so the declarations, num count equals 0. So this is where we initialize our variable. And then this is where we test it. And we say while count is less than 4, then output hello. And this is important. We have to alter the original control variable. This variable called count is called the control variable because it controls how many times you're going to go through the loop, right? It's value. So it's called the control variable. Output goodbye. Okay, so now what I want you to do is to go ahead and open up PyCharm and or idle, whichever you like to work in. I'm going to do idle just because it's bigger and I can see it better. I thought I had it open. Now it's not open. I guess I closed it. So we're gonna code this a couple of programs. Then you don't have to get sleepy, Samuel. I'm not sure how much you get out of class, but let's see. Okay, so we're gonna go to idle. If I can find it. Okay, so where did my idle go? Why is it not coming up? I'm probably just not seeing it. let's see, I don't want that. That's totally weird. Okay, let's see here. Nope, it's not open. So let's go here again and see. There it is. All right, so with idle, I'm going to look at this program here. And first of all, I'm going to put declarations. So I'm going to say declarations. That's my comment. And so in my declarations, what's the first thing they do? They set counter equal to 0. We don't put num because that's not required. So in our flowchart or pseudocode here, whichever you prefer to look at, the first thing we do is we set our counter. So this is called the initialize step, right? So there's 3 things we have to do: initialize, test, and alter, right? So we're going to put by each one of those which one it is. So what do we need to do next? What's our diamond shape say? While, oops, not there. So we say while count is less than 4, because we're going to do it 4 times. So there we put a colon in Python like you do in with the if else. Then it indents over for you. While count is less than 4, what do we want to do? What does our program say we want to do? Output hello, right? So we would say print and then we want to do that 4 times. So instead of the old way, you would have not had a while loop and you would say print hello, print hello, print hello, print hello, right? So that was how you would do it. But here, what else do we need to do? Okay. Add 1 to count. So count equals count plus 1. Oops, but I got to spell it right. Okay, and so this step was our test step, right? And this step is our alter step. So we've got all 3 things in there. Now we don't actually, oops, in Python, doesn't it say end of, yeah, oh, it says output goodbye. Okay, so after the loop, then we could go down here and at the end, we don't want it inside the loop or it'll print goodbye every time, right? So we want it here, print goodbye, and that's the end of job portion. All right, so let's run it, see if it works. Oops. You all did something like this with that that tutorial guy that I had you working with. If I can find, you did a hello program, right? So let's see, move all my stuff out of the way. And there it is. So now, what if you remember in that, when you did that tutorial with that guy, I don't even know if he even gives his name. I always call him the guy with the backward ball cap. Anyway, if he, okay, so now let's say that when we print hello, we want to put who the user is. So what do we need to add to our program? What do we need to add? Because we want to add to our print statement where it'll say hello to somebody. So what do we need to do? And ask for their name. So how do we do that? We say name equals input please enter your name. How about that? Oh, I want to put a space too, because I don't like to get it too tight. Okay, so now I'm going to run it again. Enter your name. Okay. So you can either enter anybody's name. Oops. What did I forget to do? I asked the name. I forgot to output it in my print statement, right? So here I would have to put, oops, if I do that, comma or plus, right? Plus str name, does that work? Or does my quote go afterwards? I always forget in Python how it works. Anybody know? Is that going to work? Okay, let's try it. Okay, it's kind of close together there, but there it did it. So it put that in the string. Okay, so now if I'm entering a name, what do I need to do if I want hello to print? Say I want it to print 10 times. What do I need to change? Okay, so do I change it here, are you saying? Where do I change? What do I need to change? The while condition, the test, correct. So I would change this. If it's less than 10, since it's starting at 0, if I put 10, it should do 10 times, right? 0 to 9. So let's see if it works. There we go. Let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So it worked, right? So this is a simple program illustrating a counter control loop, which is a definite loop. Now, if I was going to do this like functions, which part of this would be my detail loop? Which part's my detail loop? Okay, the while is actually, okay, look at my, look at where it gave us that one. Let me go back. At the very beginning, when we looked at this one. Okay, so where is my detail loop portion? See, the while condition is outside, right? So which part is my detail loop? Yes, these two, I actually only have 2 statements, right? So let's make this into, and this up here is actually what's called the housekeeping, right? But I'm not going to do housekeeping because most programs that we're going to be writing, we will have declarations instead of that. But you can, housekeeping is what do you have to do before you actually start into the loop. That's all housekeeping is, okay? And whenever you write humongous programs and with reports and headers and all that, that's what you really use housekeeping for, okay? And we don't do a lot of that anymore unless you're a COBOL programmer still. I found out they are still being hired in this state. Okay, so while count is less than 10, so if I want to pull this out, I'm going to make a detail loop function up here. So I'm going to go up here, and what do I have to say to define a function? Def. Define, and let's just call it detail loop because that's, we're going to let it be what, where it can be generic. So in the detail loop, I'm going to take these 2 statements out. And actually, if I'm going to print somebody's name here, okay, and I'm going to execute. So here I'm going to make a call to detail loop, or else it won't run, right? Oops, I didn't spell it right. Detail loop. Is that how I did it? Let's see. I think this has to be a capital. Okay, so this one doesn't have my input passed up into the function. So what do I need to do? I need to actually take it here, name, and pass it up here, and let's just call it in. So I got to take it off of here. Remember when we talked about functions last week, if you pass, right? Now we don't have to return anything because we're doing our printing up here, right? But we still, it's really good to put return anyway. Actually, this, I think that's the right spot. So now, no matter how many statements I put inside detail loop, if I just make one call to it, it's going to go up here, and I can add things in here. Let's see if it runs with the function in there. Oops, I put my return. I thought I did. I put it in the wrong spot. It wants to be over here. Okay. Enter name. Oops, it didn't do it. Hello, John. Detail loop name. What does it say? In detail loop count. Oh, look what I did. Unbound local variable count. So not only do I have to pass the name, but I also have to pass the count, right? Because it's initialized here. So these declarations make it a little more difficult to do. So here I have to say pass count, or I have to initialize it up here inside my detail loop. And so up here, I'm going to pass it as C. So I'll just change it down here. Now, anybody have questions about what I'm doing, you need to ask. C+1. Okay, so now let's see. Oh, what happened? Anybody know? Other than you know that it's an infinite loop, right? Why is it an infinite loop? There's no what?
There's no dropout. Like, it won't drop out because of it being.
It's altered up here, right? So what do I need to do to make count known down here where that it will, when it tests it? See, what it's saying now is you don't ever increment count because you do it up here. So what do I need to do to get it back into my main? No. What can I do here? Return. Very good. If I return C here, so I'm going to say return C, and this one will have to be just CTR or something because it can't be the same. Into there. And so now I'm going to have to test CTR, right? Okay, let's try it again. Oops, CTR is not defined. So what did I do here? While counter is less than 10. Okay, wait a minute. This can, I think this might can stay count. Let's see. If not, because I initialized it as count, then it didn't know what CTR was. There we go. All right, so this particular function, we had to pass into, we had to pass it into the function detail loop, and we had to take it out. Now, there's another way you can do that, of course. You can, there's several different ways, but the issue here that I wanted you to see is the template. This is the detail, and so however large your detail gets, you only have to have one line here. This is kind of like the outline of your whole program, and every program you can create a detail loop. So your declarations, your while loop, your detail loop, this can be like a template for all counter control variable loops, if you know how many times you want to go through it. Anybody have any questions? We did a couple of little things there. Everybody understand it? If you don't, somebody else doesn't either, and they just don't want to ask the question. So be sure and let me know before we go on, because we're going to do one, we're going to get a short definition of one other kind of loop, and then you should be able to start some of the mind tap. That's what I'm going to have you do. Let's see. Okay, so the next one, that was a counter controlled. That was the introduction. We already went past that. Okay, the other loop was the indefinite with a sentinel value. So there's this loop is a definite loop because it executes a definite predetermined number of times. It's a counter control loop, and that's the one we just looked at. Then you can decrement a counter instead of increment. It's whichever is easier for you. I always add easier than I subtract. So, and here we've already talked about this too, where we did plus equals, but I've had trouble in Python with plus for an incrementer. We may try it again, but C++, C Sharp, and Java, instead of saying like value equals value plus 1, you can do plus value, and it automatically adds 1 when it gets to that statement. And it's supposed to work that way with Python, but I'll have to look at it again. So in many computer applications, numbering starts with 0 because of the 0 and 1 nature of computer circuitry. So the way you guys that are engineers would understand this, that in a circuit board, there's sets of switches, and each switch is either off or on, and it sets up a whole value in the computer, because binary math is zeros and ones. And so the sets of zeros and ones are what tells you, it's how it tells you what numbers it is, binary math. But in here, so that's why, and this is going to be important later when we get to arrays, that you understand, we've always been told 0 was nothing, right? But it is, it's a placeholder. 0 really is something. So our numbers say 0 to 9. 1 0 or 10 is actually a bundle of 10, 0 through 9. You remember that when you were in elementary school? They'd tell you that. That's 1 bundle, 2 bundles. So 10 is not a new number. It's saying you've got 1 bundle. Okay, so 20 is 2 bundles. So that's base 10 or decimal numbers. So 0 to 9 is actually 10 positions, right? So 0 is a number, and it's a control variable that you can start with. If you wanted to start with 1, you can, but very seldom. Programmers always start with 0 when they're incrementing or keeping track of positions. Okay, so we got one other loop. We've got about 5 minutes here. We're going to look at this real quick. This type of loop is an indefinite loop. If you don't know, you may go through 2 times. You may go through 200 times if you go through it all. So here's an indefinite while loop that displays hello as long as the user wants to continue. So we're going to take our program and we're going to modify it to where it tests for Y or N. That's the loop control variable. So they've named a variable here called should continue, and you have to input it. So let's take our, here's the body of the loop, and you'll notice at the bottom, they're asking for input again. Do you want to keep going? And so you don't know how many times the user actually is going to want to print out hello. So let's go back. Uh-oh, I must have closed it out again. As a matter of fact, what I'm going to have you do, because we've only got 5 minutes, you don't have to do a function in it, but everybody that, let me go out here and put this in here. I want you to do before Wednesday an indefinite loop that prints out hello. Just pick a number of times, just so you show me the screenshot so that I know that however many times you entered it, that's how many times it printed it out. Okay. So you're going to code from this pseudocode, and I'll put it in the Dropbox. So you're going to take this pseudocode that we just looked at right here, and they actually show you some code, but it's not Python, I don't think. No, that's the output for it. So you don't have to do the function. Do it the first way we did it in idle. Let me show you. And you wrote it, so you should have it too. But this first one that we did before I made a function and made it a little more difficult. Where was that? Was called hello. Okay, so I'm going to take this function out of it. Okay, so I'll put this back in the middle. Because this is like it was in the book, except for it didn't even have the name up there. So we'll take the name out. While count is less than 10, and we'll just leave it like that. And that has to be count. Oops. Count equals count plus 1. Okay, so you need to change this to where it matches the pseudocode for this loop with using the variable should continue as the control variable. And I'll put it in the Dropbox here. Let me see, where am I at home? Create an assignment under, because we've started module 5. Here are all the ones that you're going to do. Also, you can start, we'll do in class, if you haven't done them, we'll do the loop while for loops and the counter control loops, and this one next time. Maybe this one. Yeah, because I don't want to do the break one. We'll get to however many we can, but I'm going to add, oh, you probably can't see this because I haven't published it yet. Hold on, now you should be able to see it. Okay, so I'm going to add an assignment, new assignment. This one is Sentinel loop. And I'm going to put it at the bottom. So what page is that in your book there? Tell me what page is that. So code in Python from the flowchart / pseudocode on, let's see, did it say page on your Cengage? Okay, figure 5-4 in MindTap book. And here's what I want you to do. Run it with printing 5 times and printing 15 times. Oh, that's still making it counter controlled. No, I don't want to tell you how many times. Just run it so that your input will go for however many times you put in it. Okay, and just show a couple of times so that I know that it runs that way. And then we're going to go over that one. And that one's going to be worth 10 points. If you get it done before class. If you don't, then you don't get the points. Let me put it as online. I'll upload to everyone, and that's going to be due on Wednesday at 9. Okay. All right, y'all are free to go. Finish reading. Oh, also finish reading Unit 5 and take that Unit 5 test, but you actually, I never make you do the test till the next Monday, the deadline, but. Okay. Okay, let me kill the record here. Stop recording.